Okay, here we go.
Okay, I will start in Arabic first and then we'll switch to English. So أول شيء مساء الخير للجميع. أهلا وسهلا فيكم بدكتورة لاب. كثير متحمسين السنة هيك نبلش معاكم وخاصة مع هيك لقاء مميز. بعرف عن حالي أنا عدن فرحات، مهندسة معمارية، مرشدة بطاقم تكتورة، وكمان مديرة برامج تكتورة لاب. معنا كمان اليوم بالزوم رناد ولبنى، مهندسين معماريين مؤسسين تكتورة، وهن مسؤولين وأصحاب رؤية الدكتورة الكبيرة اللي بتخلق مساحة تعليمية مستقلة وملهمة للمجتمع المعماري. مساحة كمان هيك بتعيد التفكير بعلاقتنا مع العمارة بسياقها المحلي وسياقها العالمي. اليوم نفتتح مبدئيا موسمنا الجديد بتكتورة لاب بيوم خاص جدا، يوم مفتوح مع المدرسة العالمية للهندسة المعمارية AA الموجودة في لندن. من خلاله رح نكون مع ضيوف مميزين وممثلين رسميين من مدرسة AA School اللي رح يعرفونا أكثر على طبيعة الدراسة بالجامعة، يحكوا لنا عن شروط القبول، كيف نكون جاهزين عشان نقدم لهي الجامعة. بالإضافة رح يكون معنا ممثلة رسمية من مؤسسة البخاري، المؤسسة اللي رح تقدم منحة كاملة لتمويل تعليم طلاب متميزين المقبلين على دراستهم في ال AA، ورح نستضيف طالبة كمان تحكي لنا عن تجربتها في المنحة. من بعدها راح نفتح المجال انكم تسالوا وتستفسروا بخصوص المنحه والدراسه في المدرسه، في مدرسه AA. تقدروا تفتحوا المايك او بينفع كمان تكتبوا لنا بالشات واحنا كمان بنحاول قد ما يمكن نحكي كل الاسئله ونترجمها بالانجليزي. طبعا اللقاء راح يكون باللغه الانجليزيه عشان هيك هسه بدي انقل انجليزي. So once again, welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. We're really excited to open this new season at Tectura Lab with such inspiring guests. My name is Adam Farhat. I'm an architect and a mentor in Tectura Studio and also the director of programs at Tectura Lab. For those who are new here, Tectura Institute was founded by architects Ranad Dib and Lubna Assaf, who are also with us today on Zoom. They started Tectura with a vision to create an independent and inspiring educational space for the architectural community, a space that rethinks our relationship with architecture within both local and global context. Today, we are honored to host a special open day with the Architectural Association, AA, in London. We'll begin with Anna, Head of Learning at the AA, an architect whose work connects teaching, research, and design. We're also joined by Georgia, Diploma Unit Master at the AA and co-founder of the Feminist Collective, another session. And finally, with Sonia Sayed, architect, researcher, and trustee of the Albukhary Foundation, will introduce the scholarship opportunity. Alongside her, we are having with us a student who has been awarded the Albukhary Scholarship to share her personal journey and experience with you. We will hear more along the presentation about each one and everyone. After the presentation, we will open the floor for your questions. You're welcome to either unmute yourself and ask directly or type your questions in the chat. We'll make sure to read them out loud. We, Tectura Institute and Tectura Lab, truly appreciate your time and effort in making this meeting possible. And now I'm very happy to hand it over to Anna to begin. So here you go.
Thank you, Adan, and thank you all. It's great to join you guys. This is very nice. So maybe can I share my screen?
Yes, of
yeah.
course.
Okay. Great. Wait. It's 1 second.
Take your time.
I have to leave the meeting, I'm afraid, and come back. Oh no, there you go. I think now it's done. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. You can see that I have a lot of weird messages that I will hide somewhere.
Okay.
Okay, great. I have a new old computer. So sorry about this mini delay. It's a pleasure to introduce you to the school. I'm sure some of you have already heard about the AA. So it might be just an overview, but hopefully a way into the school. And thank you so much, Georgia and Sonia, for also expanding after this as we'll go in depth into how the school works and what is the ethos of the school. So take this as a first introduction, and also with some facts for those of you that perhaps are a bit more new to the school. The AA is an independent school and is the oldest school of architecture in the UK. Perhaps what is interesting about the AA is that it was established by a collective of students, and this ethos of learning, discussing architecture in an independent way and alternative to some institutions was what drove it or what established it at the beginning, and it remains part of the culture of the school. It is an association, as the name states. It's not just a name, but it means that we're a community that get together and make decisions, of course, in the current times with more restrictions than in the 1800s, but we still have a sense of community and of sharing decisions within the school. At the beginning of the 1900s, the AA opened as a day school and also moved to Bedford Square, which is where we are now. I'll show you the buildings now in a minute. And in the 2000s, the AA acquired also a forest in Dorset, which is in the south of the UK, that we use as a sort of satellite campus that hosts also other programs. And it's quite a special place. And finally, in the last 6 years, when we received these right to award degrees, which means the degree that you get at the AA is like in any other UK school. So you get the same valid degree than in other schools. But I would say the AA continues to be a bit special compared to other institutions, exactly because of this independent thinking or aim of alternative thinking. And the student body is the most important or central aspect of the school. Last year, we had 81 different nationalities, and I guess this year it will be similar. It is a place where you learn to discuss architecture. For me, I studied my PhD at the AA in the last 5 years. And for me, it was also, after having lived in other places and of course been in other forums of architecture, but still when you enter the AA, it's quite strong how there are different views and these views come together and you can relate to those. And I think it's a place where you feel at home just because it is so not like home in a way. It is quite a mixed place. And these are the buildings without any materiality in its abstract form. The AA at the beginning was one building, 36. The number 36, the door there is always open during the week. So if you come to London at any time, you can just go into the school. It doesn't look like it because it's just like any other door. So it doesn't have a sign or anything necessarily, but you can just walk in and walk through the buildings. Of course, as years passed and the school grew, it kept kind of adding buildings. What's more important, this for me as a way to understand the school is like, just get into that place and start walking around. These corridors are the places where we discuss architecture. Of course, the structure of the buildings, the idea that there are rooms that have the scale of a room because these are houses. It's not a building that was designed to be a university, right? So it is a set of houses, means that that's the scale of the learning that we work with. The architecture of the building determines the way we discuss. And that's the scale of the corridor, the scale of the staircase, of crossing paths. And I would say also the fact that it doesn't matter if you're in first year, third or fifth, or in postgraduate or a PhD, there is a lot of transversality. It is about what is of interest for you. And then, of course, you are getting knowledge from different sources and more structure, but the structured knowledge accompanies the not so structured knowledge, which is to just be in the building and to just be in these sharing spaces. I wanted to drop you this link in case you want to explore a bit more. This one up here. This is the project review. Project review means the last exhibition of the year where all the student work comes together in the school. So every single unit, and I'll tell you what a unit is, studio in a postgraduate, and every form of research has a representation in the building. If you go into that link, you can navigate in different ways. There is one that I recommend you to do, which is via this point cloud where you can zoom in and actually look at the work quite closely. And it's quite an interesting way to also be in the building and walk through before you get to go and experience it in person. The structure side, and let me know if I should follow any chat questions or, no, okay, you're just saying, thank you, Renat.
Yeah.
speaking of this kind of more structure, no, like the academic structure of the school is quite linear. We have a foundation program, which means a year before starting architecture for students that are interested in trying to see if that's what they want to study, and it's a very hands-on program, and first year, and then it is divided in intermediate, which is second and third year, and diploma, which is fourth and fifth, and then all the postgraduate students, programs. The foundation and first year happen in studio space, which means everyone shares the same space. You work in groups that keep shifting, and all the learning is intertwined in the studio space. And this is how the studio space looks like. There is a lot of simultaneous production, a lot of drawing, a lot of making, and it's a very hands-on way into the school and also into what architecture is, which is a question that doesn't have one single answer. It has so many ways to answer this question that the first and foundation programs, what they try to do is to open up that question and actually make it something that is to explore and not so much to narrow down what this will be about. When we go into intermediate and diploma, these are the 2-year programs that I was mentioning before, second and third and fourth and fifth. We have 17 and 19 units this year, coming year. And a unit is something that now, there are other schools that have units and work around the idea of a unit, but this is something that started at the AA. A unit is a group of 12 students that work with, in general, 2 or 3 tutors. And these tutors, at the start of the year, they propose an agenda. And it's an agenda that has a theoretical background, that has a lot of positioning. It's very contemporary, and it's a proposal. So basically in September, when we start, there is a series of interviews where the students and the tutors somehow interview each other, and they find this affinity, and they say, okay, yes, I really want to spend a year with you looking into this problem. Of course, these problems, so-called problems, are not straitjackets. The students go into the unit and find their own ways around these agendas. But basically, they are interested in, I don't know, discussing, actually here in Deep 7 with Georgia and Platon and Hamed, different ways. Last year, it was about allocation and negotiation, and maybe she will tell you more. But every year it changes. The units keep quite steady. It doesn't mean that you're in the same unit and you'll do the same sort of work, but it's a very interesting way to understand how the school concentrates in these spaces of reflection and goes really in depth in different questions. And at the same time, of course, you have transversal learning. And this transversal learning comes by the hand of the core studies. You have media studies, which means you learn to draw, you learn to use different forms of media, video, more image-based, more digital. Of course, this is it's been an expanding field, and you have experts that come to take you into these areas of work. Environmental and technical studies means that you learn about structures, about environmental analysis, materials, different ways to approximate, let's say, the built environment. And history and theory is where you more read and write with all the different forms of writing that come from it, from the history and theory side. And of course, you also have a very broad spectrum of approximations to what it means to study history and theory today. And lastly, in third and fifth year, there is a module called professional practice that is a hinge toward your professional life. So they start kind of introducing you to how to transition and how to prepare to be an architect in general, more in the UK, but internationally. That is the undergraduate provision. Perhaps is what most of you are interested on today, although I'm not sure exactly of everyone in the room.
Yes, we can say that, yeah, the most.
Yeah, that would be the most general. So that would be, yeah, that provision, you know, of entering and going through first year and intermediate and diploma. But then, of course, very, very quickly, because you will be sharing the space with these guys, they are the postgraduates. And the postgraduate students are a funny bunch. There are 10 different programs and PhD. And postgraduate is also very varied. It's about expertise. So it's basically, you really want to explore a particular area of work. There are more material-oriented programs like the Design and Make, which actually happens at Hook in the forest, and they take parts of of the trees, and they cut them and they reassemble them and they build different inhabitable kind of spaces. Or the DRL, which is one of the oldest programs and operates more in a form of a lab, and they build prototypes, but also they generate kind of digital experiments. Or MTech, the Emerging Technology and Design, which is more fabrication oriented. But then, as I was saying, on the other side of the spectrum, you also have history and critical thinking, or the Projective Cities program, which is a program that actually bridges both theory and design and gives you the first kind of step towards PhD, for instance. So these are the other, let's say, people that are in the room. And even though it might sound that it's somehow strange that you would coexist with people that maybe are older, but you do, and actually you share, as I was saying before, the interest, and then you start these conversations, and this is how you actually enter into certain discussions. And these are the services that you share, and these spaces, although here are put in this kind of grid, and you're like, okay, yeah, there's a library, there's a photo studio, no, there's a print center, but it's I would argue it's more than the provision of a space of the archive. Is that you can work in these places also as a student, you can work a certain amount of hours per week, but also you become somehow interested in this, and you spend more time at the archive, and you meet Ed, who's an amazing guy, and you find stuff, no? So these are also spaces of learning. It's not only of getting things done. Some of the spaces look like this. This is the boot shop. If you are very much into making, you will spend a lot of time there and learn from the guys there. The library, this photo is awkward because it's empty. It's never empty. It's quite crowded. It's small, but it's always quite crowded and actually a bit noisy, I would say, for a library. Then there is Dorset, the Hook Park. It's an amazing place, a magic place. I hadn't been. I was there a few months back. They have these awesome sheds that were built there. This is the Frey Auto shed, I think. It's the only Frey Auto building in the UK, and they can work there all day and night if they want to. And of course, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but the IA has the visiting school, which is a global school that happens all year round. You can jump into one of these programs almost any time of the year. They really run around the schedule of the year, and they last 2 to 3 weeks in general, and they are run by either current staff at the school, but also alumni, people that go back to their countries and then they launch one of these programs. So this is a very easy way to just kind of touch base with the AI, spend 2 weeks, experience, make a project, and go back to your routine. And finally, there is this particular format which is called Summer School. It just finished. It happens in June, July. And it is a month of being at Bedford Square and basically also getting introduced to architecture. So if you want to get to know the school, how it works, working unit system, because this also works in a unit system, you can jump into the summer school, get acquainted with the institution and have a good time. To be honest, I think it's quite fun. This is last year, the last final review where they organize a banquet in the library. So it's also a very nice way to meet people and have a good time. And of course, like any school, I would say there is a public program. The good thing about the public program at the AA is that it is quite driven by the community. Again, every year there's a call for events. Events range exhibitions, book presentations, different types of formats for discussion. And it's very interesting. It runs in the evenings in general, but there are also symposiums that last all day. But there is a flexibility, there is, or the wish of a flexibility where the students kind of make the calls, hopefully more often than not. And if there is a party that needs to be organized, there is a party that needs to be organized and it has to happen. This is the terrace, which is one of the most neuralgic points. It's tiny again, but we gather there and we are crowded. And the school life happens in these moments and a lot of meanings of the work and the sense of how everyone is doing transpire in those moments. So these events are not just, like release events, but also sometimes hinge events that make the work make sense across different aspects of the school. And again, this end of year, the project review that happens every year, and you can track them back. Like I shared the link for 2025, but there you will be able to actually go back in time and see how the work has been evolving through different years. Is the last point of the academic calendar, with graduation, and your parents come, you celebrate with everyone, and it's how we kind of end the year. In that sense, I wanted to share with you some dates because today I was a bit wary of time, and also to be able to cover the scholarship with Sonia is going to talk about, and to give you a more like diverse way of entry to the AA. But we have 2 online sessions that you can join. One is on the 8th of October. We will discuss the foundation, intermediate, and diploma program. So that's perhaps the one that's more appropriate for you guys. You only have to sign up online in our website. And I will share also the Eventbrite link with Ranat. But basically, the difference between what I just said is like, I will go more in depth in that session. You will also hear from Ingrid, our director, about the school and the approximation, and you will meet the foundation staff, the intermediate tutors, the different unit tutors. So you are able to go into different breakout rooms and speak with each of them and ask questions and also learn about how they work. So basically, it's a session where we are all available for a discussion on how you are planning to apply. And that same day, that same week, we have an in-person open day. Of course, you're super welcome to come, but we understand that it's not easy, and in general, that's why we do more like online events, because it's easier to get people acquainted with our programs. But also then, and the postgraduate programs have its own dedicated session on Wednesday, 5th of November. Applications for postgraduate are a bit later than yours, so they are a bit postponed. But still, if you are curious and you want to know what's going on at that level, you are welcome to join and listen to that presentation. So yeah, I think this is all from me. I'll also share my email in the chat. Anytime that you have a question, or if you plan to come, or if you plan to join a session or you can't, we're happy to accommodate, and also we're happy to know what your plans are and to be in touch. So anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I pass it to Sonia, I guess.
Thank you, Anna. I let Ranat continue with the presentation, maybe a bit.
Okay.
Ranat, you're sharing? Yeah.
Yes. We also have Georgia with us. Georgia, would you like to add some?
Yeah, I have a short presentation that should take me 10 minutes to go through.
Yes.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yes, of course. It's
Perfect. It's my go. Good. Because I can talk about this for endless time. So you guys have to like cut me off if I talk too much. So let me share my screen.
Of course.
Let me see if I remember to do this. I'm very happy that I don't remember how to use Zoom. Yes?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So, I mean, when we were discussing about this session, we were kind of thinking that one of the important aspects is to actually not only talk about the culture of the school, but also actually talk about the type of work that is made within the school, and actually how people kind of congregate collectively around the culture of work. And I'm going to pick up on a lot of things that Anna kind of presented, but I think that somehow there are aspects of this presentation that are kind of representative of some of the things Sonia is doing, what Anna is doing, what I'm doing, and like hopefully what some of you guys will end up doing. And I was sitting down thinking about how to talk about an AA project, and I think that one of the things that really came to my mind is that the AA project, or an AA project, or what you do over the course of the year, is not an island. It definitely is something that never ends, or has kind of funny, strange, blurry endings. And actually, oftentimes, each year begins to kind of melt together. And I wanted to just, I very quickly kind of listed down some of the things that I was kind of exposed to when I was at the AA, but how the AA as a kind of infrastructure and as an institution kind of supported me within my education. So I actually joined the AA and Foundation. I was 18. and I had just moved to London. So I was part of this kind of international cohort. And I did my part one and my part two, so my diploma there, and I graduated with a MArch. I was lucky enough to receive an AA scholarship through my whole education, which is something that I think for me is one of the most important aspects of the school and what the school can provide in terms of diversifying the access to the institutions, which is why I am so kind of happy to be and honored to be involved in the initiative that Sonia started at the AA. But also I was awarded an AA prize at the end of my time there. So there was kind of an amazing amount of recognition that I had for the work, but also for my contribution to the AA, because I really believed in it as a kind of culture beyond the projects that I made there and my friends made, but it was really one of the kind of biggest parts of my community, and a community that I still exist with today. And alongside the making of these projects, I also had amazing opportunities to work in different ways as part of the community. So I was an editor for a student journal. I was part of an academic committee. So I was involved in the governance of the school as a student representative. I also worked at reception. So like every Wednesday from 7 till 10, I was there, like answering the phone and ringing people in. So I was really like part of the kind of movement of the school and really got to understand like the community and how the school moves through its buildings and what people were doing. I was also, as a student, I was part of a visiting school in collaboration with the Whitechapel Gallery, which is a really amazing art institution here in London. And I got sponsorship to go to France in order to make a small project through the AA. And then when I finished, I actually was invited back as a juror, but also I taught in the summer school with two friends of mine and my partner. But also like 2 years ago, I joined as a teacher as part of Diploma Unit 7. And this year I'm actually starting to be part of the postgraduate program. So I never really stopped the AA project. The AA project is something that I'm continuously working on. And I think why this is kind of important, apart from the fact that I don't want to share my CV, but like the AA is a platform more than it is a kind of school by which you learn. And what I mean by that is that the AA has every opportunity that you make for yourself. And I think for me, that is really the kind of essence of what happens with inside the studio, but also outside. So I'm going to talk really quickly through some small things that I was working on, because I really wanted to kind of communicate some of the kind of texture of what it means to make work within the buildings of Bedford Square. So one of the first things, this was a photo that I found on my iPhone from when I was like 1 month into the AA. And one of the things, this was one of the kind of first drawings that I was working on as a student there. But what I was really interested about this photo, and what was interesting to me that I took it, was that I was always interested in this relationship between kind of making something that was physical, drawing it, and the idea that doing one thing could kind of birth a kind of inquiry that never ended. So I could always translate things through media. And that was, I think, the second thing that was so important to me, is I was really interested in forms of media and ways that you can represent it from three-dimensional, but also kind of two-dimensional things, and then later digital objects. And we went out of our foundation to Paris. And this was one of the most immediate ways that I could start sketching the city. And I know when I say sketch, it doesn't look like a sketch, but we were really interested as part of our education to kind of start investigating different ways in which we could communicate the city and spaces and our environment. So what I used to use is like my body as a tool to measure, and I would take sellotape and glue it against the wall and start taking the city with me and putting it into sketchbooks. And I started becoming kind of really interested in collage. And then I started experimenting with film and how I could actually start combining drawing and kind of physical making and using time as a way to kind of start to express that. And then actually I was interested in how that became more spatial. So how could I use kind of architectural objects within kind of investigation of drawing and of making and of somehow bridging the relationship between 2D and 3D. I mean, please forgive like the kind of terrible kind of resolution. This is like 2014, so it's like 10 years ago. So like, you know, the kind of conversations around that were kind of slightly different. But I think that you know, I was really through my first 3 years interested in how I could engage with a process of thinking and actually not ever finish anything, but actually that one thing and one act platformed the next. And one of the kind of big aspects of my education was that the AA was always offering spaces that we could actually communicate with different institutions and faculties around the UK. So you can see me as like a 19-year-old presenting my first year portfolio to a panel of architects who came to assess and give awards as Camden Council. So that is me. I think I had like a full-on like blood infection. I was so sick, but so I was sweating all over my portfolio. But there was like all my tutors were there and my peers, and you know, there was really this culture of like no matter what, everyone was there for one another. And I think that there was this kind of amazing kind of, it was an amazing kind of moment in me trying to understand what it meant to be an architect and what it meant to actually make work within an institution like the AA. And then that kind of moves me into some of a kind of interest that I started having in casting and the making of artifacts and how I could reuse things that I found over and over and over again, and actually how the resolution or the quality of things would change through the process of making, and how that informed a kind of language around drawing. So you can see that in the portfolio of work, and this was something that was really ingrained in me as a student, it's not where you end up. It's always about how you think about things in reflection to what is in front of you. So if I could say 2 things about the AA in summary, is that the most important thing is the way you think. It's not what you do, it's actually how you think and digest through things. And the second thing is how you see things. So how do you start to experiment with forms of media, drawing, making, to kind of express and close the gap around actually how you perceive the world, environment, and architecture around you. So I think that the first kind of 3-4 years of my education was really trying to understand that quite personally and actually try and argue for it in front of my peers and my tutors. And one of the most important things about the end of the year, and Anna was talking about this, was the exhibition. And one of the things that we did at the end of our 3rd year was that we actually cut into the walls of the AA in order to create more spaces to exhibit our work. So these are that's my professor on the ladder and my peers, and we started actually breaking down and opening up the AA so that we could actually gain spaces in order to exhibit our work. So we cut this huge slot through the wall. So I think that this is like, you know, part of what I was saying is that, you know, the AA is a platform for you to make it the way in which you want, and they're huge support systems that allow you to kind of do that. And it's really has this kind of atmosphere of trying to kind of experiment with new forms of making that you can make yourself. And then I kind of move on after this kind of these 4 years of exploration. I think that somehow like everything started to kind of fall into place in my diploma, which is my master's, my last 2 years. So that was my 4th and 5th year. And then I started experimenting with kind of larger, more complex themes around ownership and landscape. So the scale, I went from the object to actually much bigger spaces. And I was really interested in, you know, ownership, the image, land, law, and actually how the architect can begin to engage with these larger processes that define the landscape and our environment outside of our cities. And the fact that actually the landscape and the countryside are one of the most extreme examples of inequality, land appropriation, kind of internal colonialism, and actually how the image and law begin to perpetrate those inequalities in our environments. And then this kind of analysis that was quite kind of theoretical and academic led me to begin to experiment with kind of forms of drawing that that basically were a critique on what I found in my surroundings. So you can see in the masters, there's a kind of much more analytical lens that starts taking forward, but also a kind of critical engagement with actually the contemporary landscape of kind of cities. So I think those are kind of fragments of things that I found interesting, but you can also see that there were kind of the same kind of trajectory carried me forward, but also became kind of refined as I matured through my education and with the support of the school. But alongside a lot of these kind of projects, I started becoming obsessed with editing and writing and bookmaking. And I was a student editor of a student-led publication called AA Architecture, which is a triannual publication. And what was really amazing is that this was the first opportunity that I had writing a brief and talking to artists and editing people's work and actually starting to understand how you curate an agenda. And I did this with a close companion and colleague of mine who I met in my third year. And I also got an opportunity to also collaborate with further publications. The AA has an amazingly rich history to do with publications in the print studio, and that was something that I continue to engage with today, but it was something that I was experimenting with as a student, sometimes more naively than others. But actually, the big thing for me was that I did a media studies course, which Anna was talking about, where we made books. And it was the first time that I had ever made a book before. It was a new skill to me. And we kind of made these books, and actually one of my books got accepted into the Tate collection here in London, and I got to kind of present it to amazing bookmakers. So this is just an example of like how the AA, some course that you do for a credit, ends up completely changing the trajectory of your career, but also actually adding to these kind of experiences and influences in kind of amazing ways. And that then led me to a bigger collaboration through the visiting school at the AA with the Whitechapel Gallery, where we basically got funding to go and do a survey of Richelieu, which is a small town city plan in France, in rural France. So again, like this, through the AA and through just being around the corridors and speaking to students and tutors, all these opportunities started happening that had nothing to do with my courses. That really, I continue to work with books today and editing and writing, but this also kind of really helped what ended up being more and more my career, which is working in teaching and in research. And in 2022, 23, I got invited back by my professors. You can see me there in my glasses and very different hair, to go and crit for a jury in Diploma Unit 7, and these were some of the amazing projects that they had made. And I ultimately got invited back to teach with them. So I'm now teaching as part of the diploma school, as part of the unit that I was part of, and I contributed to after I left the AA and graduated. But alongside that, I was also, me and two colleagues of mine, we ended up doing a small brief for the summer school at the AA, where we built a fountain in the middle of the AA that was like a kind of critique on water privatization in the city of London. And actually we brought a whole bunch of students from the NACAB to come to London, and we got funding for them. So, you know, that was part of also my teaching experience. And then finally, I got to also interface with the public program this last year, where I curated and chaired a lecture series on land. We featured a large amount of artists and practitioners from Palestine. So this is me and Oraib Toukan, who is a really prolific thinker around cultural knowledge, Palestinian cultural knowledge, and artistic production. So this is something that is kind of, as you can see, kind of the themes of my diploma unit project started translating into actually a lot of my taught work, but also kind of writing and having opportunities to contribute further to the AA publication. So I think that my kind of point here is that, if it's not clear by now, that everything kind of ended up being attached to one another, and my projects ended up becoming platforms for my practice. And the things that I was doing in the second month of my AA journey, I'm still dealing with today. And why that happens is that you are framed as the center of your education. Of course, there are all these frameworks that you have to go through, but what the AA attracts are strong, independent thinkers that know how to argue for and kind of frame their unique way of thinking and collaborating with their community. So that is the end of my spiel. Good 15 minutes. I was on time, which is great. But no, I'm happy to kind of answer any questions afterwards. But yeah.
Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you, Anna and Georgia. I have to say, as a postgraduate, I feel a real sense of having missing out. It really makes me want to go back and study it all over again. Very inspiring. Thank you so much. So now we will move to Sonia, who will introduce the scholarship opportunity.
Yes,
Sonia, the stage is yours.
Sure. Thank you so much. So thank you to both Anna and Georgia for speaking a bit about the AA, and I'll just speak a bit more about the practicality of things to do with the scholarship. So if we just go to the next slide. Yeah, and we can start. So just a bit about the foundation itself. It was founded 40 years ago with the sort of intention to enhance cultural and education opportunities to those unable to access it. If we go to the next one.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So I think as the foundation as a whole has these core values of compassion, tolerance, and coexistence. And the foundation itself has founded a museum in Malaysia as well as a university in North Malaysia that houses over 2,000 students from 90 over nationalities or so. And also focuses on funding a lot of tuition programs. So education is a big core of the whole foundation because the founder itself believes that providing the opportunity of higher education provides a lifeline for those in the future. And it's also collaborated with international institutions like the Museum of Arts in Tokyo, as well as Warwick University. So we're really excited that we were able to expand this accessibility towards a collaboration with the AA, with the Albukhary Scholarship at the AA, given its expansion to the architectural field, and to be able to collaborate with an institution like the AA is really amazing, as you can already tell based on what Anna and Georgia were speaking about. And the scholarship itself is a total of 5 scholars. So it provides the opportunities to 5 scholars in total. So we were very fortunate with our first scholar who's joining us today, Nibras. She'll speak a bit more about her experience later. So she was our first scholar from Sudan. So she's just completed her first year, and we've just admitted the second scholar from Myanmar who will be joining us in September at the AA. And this is why we wanted to organize this sharing session, because we wanted to get the scholarship out there, because this year we'll be able to intake 2 scholars. And this, I just would like to clarify that it's not solely to this group or session, but that's 2 in total. So I really hope as many of you apply as possible. And the scholarship provides the education throughout first year, intermediate school, and diploma. So it's for the full 5 years. It's fully paid for. And the only sort of eligibility that is required is we really look, I think throughout the scholarships from the foundation with other institutions as well, we really look for bright students. And in particular, with this scholarship with the AA, I think Anna and Georgia both really were able to understand the kind of students we look for, which are really adaptable, independent thinkers, really resilient, sort of have that ability of critical thinking, and also have that foresight to contribute to something larger than them, which I think is something that Georgia touched upon as well, which is really nice. The sort of application requirements and deadlines. So the deadline for applicants would be on the 21st of November this year. And how the structure of it works is that they would have to be admitted by the AA first, and then only will you apply for the scholarship, where you write a statement to the scholarship committee outlining your need for financial support as well as your suitability for the scholarship. So once you've been accepted by mid-March or so, then the second interview with the scholarship committee will take place at the end of April and start of May. And if you just go back 2 slides, I
Yes,
think.
yes, of course.
Yeah, just in terms of what exactly just one in front, just exactly in terms of what the scholarship entails, it is the tuition fee, so the full 5 years. Accommodation fees, some allowances for living in London, as well as an airfare and visa fees. So this is more practical information. I'm sure Ranad can share this later on as well. But
Yeah.
that's what the scholarship entails as a whole, and I think I'll leave it to Nibras as well now to share a bit about her experience as our first scholar and having just finished her first year at the AA.
So good evening, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So I'm Nibras A. I'm from Sudan, and I recently completed my first year at the AA, and also I'm glad that I'm Albukhary scholar at the AA. So my journey started actually back in Sudan. I did a year and a half at the University of Khartoum. Life was going until the war happened, and it affected, I believe, every aspect of my life, one of which is education. So my education journey has stopped, and after a few months of accepting that the war was happening, I started to look for opportunities where I can actually carry on with my undergraduate journey. And one of these opportunities was studying at the EAA. I've learned about the scholarship through my friend who saw the announcement on the AA's Instagram page. That's where they announced about the Albukhary Scholarship. Of course, I had to get admitted first into the AA, and then I applied for the scholarship. But before that, I was actually preparing myself so that I can apply for studying abroad. For example, I was preparing my IELTS test for the English language requirement, and preparing a portfolio. I'm glad that I had like documentation of the work I did at University of Khartoum, which was then, equivalent to doing the foundation course that Georgia mentioned earlier. So the most important part for me, I think, was documenting. So I recommend all of you to document all the type of work that you do. Also like to mention your photography skills, the sketches that you do. And also I was proactive in Sudan at my university. So I took part in many extracurricular activities that were interesting to me. I was trying to contribute to the community there in Sudan, and that gave me like a very, very good experience, and like a wider network. After I've started doing my application, I was checking all the required documents, all the things that they needed for the application. And then I submitted my application to get admitted into the AA. I've heard after that from the AA that I was invited for an interview to get accepted to the AA, and the interview went well. And then I heard back again from the AA, and then I was accepted into the school. And then I told them that I was like interested in Albukhary Scholarship specifically. And then they told me about all the documents that are required in order to complete the application. I also highly recommend getting in touch with the admission team at the school. They were very informative, and they're just always there to answer all of your questions. So I submitted again all the required documents that were needed by the scholarship, which included writing a personal statement where I expressed my desire in getting a scholarship, as I cannot fund my tuition fees and my studies in the AA. And yeah, just like the condition why I cannot fund my studies that happened because of the war and so on. After that, after submitting all the required documents by the AA, I got again invited for the second interview. This included Sonia was there in the interview, and yeah, some members from the AA. And then again, I was evaluated for being, getting the scholarship. And again, I heard back again from the AA, and they told me that I got the scholarship, which was like a turn point in my life. So I immediately started with my visa application and stuff, and starting all the preparations to go to London. So now I moved to London and started my first year at the AA. It's my first time to be in the UK, so I was excited. And I really had no expectations of what I'm going to meet, but my experience was really nice. I had like good peers at the AA. It's a privilege to study with the students from different parts of the world. Also, this, like, having many international students made everyone friendly, and we were like connecting with each other immediately. And also, people at the AA were so friendly. Belinda, the registrar, student affairs office, the admission, they were all friendly. They made AA feel like truly home when it was my first time to just go to London. The studies at the AA is like a unique opportunity, if I can say. As you can see from the projects that Georgia has mentioned, I learned a lot. The scope of the projects vary from like some of them like were urban planning, but not like a very very specific urban planning or very huge topic of urban planning, but it was more of exploring different topics in the first year. And for example, we have a very interesting event a day that happens every year, which is the Climate Matter Week, where, for example, the previous year we had to address the question of what if these buildings were built today. So for my case, we had one of the buildings that were built previously a few decades ago, and we were like redesigning it to adapt with today's climate change. The week also included many lectures from people who are experienced in the field of sustainability and environment topic, which was very interesting. You can just go and pop in into any of the lectures going at the AA. AA is like always open to the students. You can even go to like juries of second year students. You can just sit and watch what the projects are. This is also a good opportunity to see what everyone else is doing around the school. So yeah, it was like a very nice year, and I learned a lot. It was a great year of exploring, discovering, and learning and continuing to learn at the
Thank you, Nibras. I think just to add to that, I think what's really prominent in terms of what both Nibras and Georgia were saying was that I think really making the most of your time there and really getting involved. I think Nibras did that in her first year and is looking forward to continuing to do so. As Georgia mentioned, AA is a sort of platform to so many things and to explore and discover. So it's really exciting to see that you've started to do that as well. I leave it to Ranad as maybe now.
Thank you, Nibras and Sonia. It was very incredible. I agree. All the insights shared were deeply inspiring and valuable, I think, not only for the architectural community, but far beyond. So a huge thank you for all our speakers for their contributions and opening new opportunities for our architectural community. So we now open the floor for audience questions. Feel free to unmute and speak, or you can share your thoughts in the chat. We can translate it or speak it out loud. We already have some.
Yeah, so let's start with the questions for Sonia, for Nibras. Thank you, Nibras. And then we'll continue with questions for Anna. Okay, so we'll start with the questions for Nibras.
Yeah, we have a question from Roya. Thank you so much, Nibras. I want to ask you, as a first-year student dealing with lots of challenges, what was the biggest obstacle you faced in your first year at the AA?
Wow. Okay. Um, this obstacle. I think in general, understanding how projects work in the AA. It's like exploring until you find the medium, the type of work that you are comfortable in, and how you actually deliver your work. I think delivering your work, or like, presenting your work, that was a bit challenging for me. But I didn't have this very hard obstacle. But I think, yeah, presenting my idea to the jurors was one of them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. Am I from Sadine Youssef? Am I eligible for the MA postgraduate program if I study Bachelor's of Architecture in Birzeit University and already hold a bachelor's degree? And can we take any programs from the diploma if we are postgraduates? What I mean is by integrating the core studies if I am interested in one, perhaps with my postgraduate studies.
I guess I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the first question, the answer is yes, you can. You can apply to the postgrad because you have already a bachelor. So yeah, absolutely. And then about core studies, somehow yes, because you can attend courses. You will not be submitting the work to be marked, but you can sit in the room. Still, for media studies, there are electives that run in the weekends, and actually you could take those literally full-fledged, like also participate in the sense of being evaluated, because electives on Saturday, there are like different ranges of software making and casting and ceramics, and those you could take. But in general, core studies is undergrad. Still, again, it's open. You can attend. You can go and say, I really want to learn this, and you will be welcome, but you will not be graded. Does it make sense, Sadine? Any follow-up to this?
I think that just to underpin Anna's point, the amazing thing is that the AA pretty much has an open door policy. So like, for example, all postgraduate lectures pretty much are open to the whole school. Media studies courses are kind of available for you to attend whenever you want. Like, there is a kind of really big open door policy. And what is amazing is that definitely not for postgraduate, but for part 1 and part 2, it's pass or fail system. So like, there is this kind of attitude historically in the AA where, in a sense, grades are a formality, and it's about this kind of experience of being within the school and trying to get into the door wherever you want. So you can have, say, PhD seminars, which are open. So there is this kind of total attitude of kind of openness within everything, which I think is amazing.
We have another question from Muhammad. I think it's for Sonia. Could you give a clearer explanation of the eligibility criteria for the scholarship?
I think in terms of the criteria, it's more so you have to qualify via AA's criteria first. So AA needs to accept you. And then in terms of the scholarship, it's about stating your suitability in terms of the need for financial support. Let me know if you, let me know
Yes.
if that's
Okay, so let me maybe translate this. محمد، الجواب لسؤالك هو بالأساس إنه لازم أنت تقدم كأنك أي طالب عادي مقدم لل AA، ولازم تلبي كل الشروط اللي هن بيطلبوها، اللي بتضمن طبعا تحضير ملف بورتفوليو، ملف أعمالك، ومن بعدها أنت لازم تقدم للمنحة نفسها زي رسالة منك، أو خلينا نقول إنها رسالة اللي فيها أنت طبعا بتقول بتكتب ليش أنت معني إنك تقدم، وكمان لازم تثبت بأوراق اللي بيطلبوها منك من ناحية المنحة إنه وضعك المادي بتطلب المنحة، ووفقها حسبها بعطوك المنحة. المنحة ممكن تكون لحد منحة كاملة، وإذا مش منحة كاملة ممكن تكون أقل حسب تدريجك في الأوراق اللي بتقدمها. Yes.
Okay, let's continue. We have another question from Ahmed Zidan. Could the scholarship also cover a PhD degree?
As of now, the scholarship is just looking at the 5-year program, which is the undergraduate and master's. But I think there are other scholarships at the AA. Maybe Georgia and Anna could also chip in on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have other scholarships and bursaries. The difference between a scholarship and a bursary is that the scholarship is for the duration of your studies, and a bursary goes year by year. You can get a term, 2 terms, so it's more fractionary help. And we also have hardship bursaries, or funds actually, that happen when someone really needs this bit of support, and we do that on a rolling basis. So there are like 3 degrees, like overall term, and then on a regular basis, we also help our students that are in hardship. For PhDs, basically what we try to do is we work with each applicant in the possibilities that they have to get external and internal funding. And we have one person that helps you look into the school, because we will offer you a bursary, but also in your context, what are the other institutions that can help you build a case? So what we try to do is kind of gather a case for you to have multiple sources and support you also on that search, because sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds. And we have the experience of our previous students saying, okay, I found this, there is this this bit of money from this institution and this other. So what we try to do is go very much case by case. So the answer is both, like we do have internal help. It's not as substantial if it's a scholarship, but also we work with you to try to help you find this context. In the case of PhDs, because it's a 4-year journey and we know it's a very demanding one, but also PhDs tend to work and also tend to work at the school, tend to start teaching at the school. So it's a bit of a particular path. And that is why we have a dialogue and we enter in conversation with that, and we help through that journey. I don't know, Georgia, if you have any other,
Yeah, I think that following up on what Anna is saying, I think that, and I see there are a few kind of questions about, receiving the fact that some people here have their bachelor degree, may be interested in going to master's, may be interested in part 2, may be interested in postgraduate. Apply. Even if it is not for this scholarship that we're talking about, because it's for part 2 or postgraduate, apply. Like, the AA has other funding sources and will support you in finding funding. Like, it really, and obviously this is dependent on your application and your success in the application process, but like, there is always an ability to find funding if needed. And I think definitely the kind of harder thing is, in a sense, the kind of normal application process. So do it, because also the admissions team is amazingly kind and helpful at the AA. So they can also help you guide you through that process, but apply by the November deadline, because that is when all bursaries beyond this scholarship and scholarships will be assigned. So apply, definitely.
Thank you, Georgia. I will translate it. خلينا أختصر لكم اللي انحكى. طبعا سأل سؤال: هل بيتم أو في عندنا منح إضافية بما إنه المنحة اللي عم نحكي عنها البخاري ما بتمول الألقاب المتقدمة؟ هل في منح بتمول البي اتش دي او حتى الماسترز؟ فالجواب كان انه في الاشي بيكون حسب كل حالة وحسب كل شخص كيف بيقدم. طبعا لما بنحكي بي اتش دي حكت انا انه الشيء ممكن لحد 4 سنين، والاربع سنين هن باغذات الثمن، يعني مش شيء رخيص. ففي عندنا اكثر من طريقه لدعم الإشي ماديا، أو طبعا كل الدعم بيكون عن طريق منح خارجية، لكن موصولة في لها الرباط مع ال AA، وال AA بتقدر تساعدكم دائما تلاقوا وتوصلوا لهاي الجهات اللي بتقدم المنح. طرق المنح مختلفة، في منح اللي بتكون بسنة باي سنة، وطبعا يعني سنة بسنة، وحسب إنجازاتكم اللي بتكون، وحسب تقديمكم اللي بيكون. وفي عندنا طبعا منح تانية اللي بتكون مقابل شغلكم في المؤسسة، في الأكاديمية نفسها اللي فيها أنتم بتعلموا، بالمقابل بتكونوا عم تعملوا أبحاثكم في البي اتش دي. جورجيا ضافت إنه قدموا بكل الأحوال المنظومة كتير داعمة وبتدعم كتير الطلاب اللي بدهم يقدموا إن كانوا ماسترز أو بي اتش دي. كتير رح تساعدكم، كتير رح تحسوا حالكم إنكم مدعومين من هاي الناحية. فاهتموا كتير كتير بإنكم تقدموا بالأول لل AA، ومن وقتها يعني بعد ما تقدموا اكيد راح تلاقوا الدعم. وجربوا، ضلكم جربوا لحد ما عن جد تلاقوا. هاي باختصار. يس.
Okay, we'll move forward for Mohammed Barawshi. Is it possible to transfer from one university to another and continue my studies for first or second degree if I have already started?
That's a tricky one because we need to know more. Yeah, I guess we would, as Georgia was saying, like we are a very one-to-one based place. So if that question would need to be elaborated on and see where you're at, what is your current situation, and then we would have a precise answer. In general, everything is possible. Sometimes what happens is like when you transfer, you lose a year or not. Like it's not like things are always workable, but you need to see what are the restrictions that you might find. I don't know if you have to translate, Renat. I feel bad, like I speak
No, it's
long.
okay. It's okay. I think it's it's fine. Yeah, that was really clear. Let's see if we have another questions.
Yeah, we have two more. Siwar Nadaf is asking, I already obtained my bachelor's degree in architecture and I'm interested in a master's degree. Is the Albukhary Scholarship relevant for the postgraduate students too? Or do we have to be first-time architecture students who do the whole 5-year program?
I think we covered this just now as well, no? So I think the Albukhary Scholarship itself is looking at the 5-year program, but as Georgia said, just apply because there are other options in terms of bursaries and other scholarships.
So let's make it clear again. راح أوضح كمان مرة. المنحة هي للقب الأول لكل حدا معني بالألقاب الثانية وألقاب متقدمة، دائما بيقدر يقدم لل AA، ومن هناك بدعموه في إنه يحصل جهات تقدر تمول تعليمه هنا. Yes, هو سوار just
reassured what you just
Yes.
said. Okay, we have a last question. Is there a website from Mais Laham, is there a website where we can see portfolios that were made specifically for applications as examples?
We don't, right, Georgia? I don't think we do. What we were discussing with Renata and Lubna the other day is to perhaps organize a session, right, about how to put together your portfolio. So we might follow up on that.
Yes. We'll make sure to publish that when it's ready. عم نشتغل على مشروع إضافي، أو خلينا نقول سيشن إضافي اللي ممكن يدعم الطلاب اللي معنيين يقدموا لحتى يعرفوا كيف يحضروا البورتفوليو تاعهم بأفضل طريقة. أكيد راح ننشر الإشي أول ما يكون جاهز.
I think that just as a kind of general comment, because I mean, the portfolio thing, I guess, is also something that we have to kind of reflect on. And I know your team at Tectura Studio and Lab is constantly kind of evaluating strategies of how to go about the making of a portfolio. I think the thing about the AA is, I think, a kind of 3-part thing. It's important to demonstrate a set of skills. that set of skills doesn't necessarily have to be traditionally architectural. So you could be the most amazing filmmaker and apply with a portfolio just of films. But there has to be a clarity in terms of actually an expertise in something, even if you're applying for the first year, that there's a kind of clarity around your portfolio in terms of medium and a skill set. I think the second thing that is really important is that you are presented through your portfolio. So don't think about what you think the AA want to see. Think about actually how do the materials, and as Nibras was saying, the documents and documentation that is in front of you portray you as a person. Because one of the most important things is how you're centered as an independent thinker. And I think that it's about thinking about actually what makes you unique within a kind of creative environment, and how can you talk about that in an interview. So I don't know if that might helps a little bit, but it's really within the interview, it's about how we can get a sense of you and how you're able to operate within the kind of AA as an institution.
Thank you, Georgia. راح أترجم I will translate. حكت جورجيا على أهمية إظهار مهارات اللي هي مش شرط إنك مهارة معماري. الإشي اللي حكته بالأول إنه ممكن أنت مجرد تكون هاوي أو بتحب مجال السينما والأفلام، وكل البورتفوليو ملف أعمالك يكون عبارة عن أفلام اللي أنت مصورها، مقاطع صغيرة. أهم شيء إنه يكون متمحور ومتبلور حوالي مهارة معينة اللي هي تكون كثير كثير واضحة بخلال من البورتفوليو. النقطة الثانية وهي نقطة جدا مهمة عرضتها، إنه لا تعرض حالك أنت، ومش تعرض شو بدك إياه، شو هن بدهن. لا، اعرض مين أنت، ومن خلال أعمالك ورجع عن جد مين أنت، وكيف بالأشياء اللي أنت بتجيبها معك، التوثيقات اللي بتحطها، الملفات نفسها بتعكس وبتورجي مين أنت، كيف أنت. هذا شيء كثير مهم، فاشتغلوا على هذا الشيء. راح نوضح هذا الشيء ممكن بشكل معمق أكثر في السيشن اللي راح نعمله، نحكي لكم تفاصيل. So yes, do we have another question?
In the chat, no. If someone in the audience would like to unmute himself or ask, feel free. If not, we can.
Maybe I have a question. That's question maybe for Anna and Nibras, both of you. The question is, to what extent can a student develop and bring the background that they come from, especially like you, Nibras, coming from Sudan, from their home country, and express it during their studies in AA?
So I think there were two projects where I felt that I expressed or I showed the background that I come from. For example, I think it's the last project in term 3, which was about House of the Future. It's a competition held by the UAE. And as we come, I think, from the culture of the UAE is not far from our culture in Sudan. Designing the house was where we had to address the societal needs maybe of the UAE family from UAE. So I think I reflected some of my background into the design. And for instance, after that, I did like a model, and the model was accompanied by a sound. So the model with the sound together, they expressed the idea that I was speaking about. And it was a narrative of a timeline of the activities that happen inside the house. I actually brought sounds from my neighborhood in Sudan, sounds also from my family, the activities that happen in the house. And people liked it, and I think they learned something about the background that I come from. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's a great example, no? And we need to meet Nibras. I've never met you in person. I look forward to that and to cross paths this year, because I think what you described, and I'm sure, Georgia, you can also jump into this question because it applies, is that you see a lot of what you call the background, no, that you bring in, the experience, but it comes as it takes architectural form, no, it can be in any medium because it's not reduced to one. And that's how, when I was saying that every unit has an agenda, but also that each student builds a brief within that agenda, I think that's where it comes in. Like, it is not like jumping into a line of thought that has all in its space and then you have to kind of rearrange it. It's more like you bring your own positioning, and then while you process it, you also complexify yourself as a student, right? So it's both, like you come with a background, but also you start to unfold your background. And I think that's what's really rich at the AA, that you go to a review and you learn something from that student, and that is what generates a force of production that is not only a bottom-up or a top-down learning. It's more than that, because it's not only bringing your experience, not only learning from top-down, it's more like unfolding in that middle kind of ground. And to me, that's what makes me also stay at the AA, that it's ever changing with the people that inhabit the building, and that's why it becomes so personable, no? Like you meet the people, you understand what they come from and also what they are interested in, and then the projects come into the table, and the projects have a quality that you can know more or less about the person, but if you do know about the person, then they become even more interesting. So I think that's a little bit the double game that makes the school quite special, because it's not about topics, because topics change, right? And topics kind of fall apart also, or it goes beyond topicality. It goes beyond these kind of discussions, exactly because it's about the students that come and bring views, points of view, and contest them, right? So I would say it's actually quite central.
Yeah, I think that, right, Renat, I think that your question also has something to do with a kind of the representation of the AA, or like the kind of internal representation. So one of the things, for example, like I'm a young tutor, you know, cat's out the bag, but like I'm a, you know, and colleagues with, I don't know, am I frozen? No, I'm okay.
Oh,
My
okay.
internet is a bit wobbly. Okay, you know, there is a kind of immense diversity among the teaching staff, that allows you to find tutors that you can create a kind of either cultural, intellectual, critical affinity towards. So one of the kind of amazing things is that not everyone's going to get it, but actually you are held within the center of your project and your investigation. And there's a really big effort for people to try and understand. And I think as a culture, you know, we have a lot to continuously learn, because that project is never done. But I really think that that actually this kind of idea of identity, forms of representation, cultural knowledge, indigenous forms of knowledge, you know, these are huge topics that are really at the epitome of the academic environment. And I think it's something that the school is constantly reflecting on in terms of its dialogue. And I think in terms of kind of the question of Palestine and Palestinians, I think that it's something that probably will be quite refreshing, because you really will begin to be exposed to actually the kind of forms of solidarity that you have with a Sudanese student or with someone from Canada, or, you know, so like it's really about how we actually begin to have those questions about representation, individual inquiry, across geographies. So I think that kind of cross-cultural exchange is something that is constantly being developed and never stagnant, as Anna was saying. Good luck trying to translate that in Arabic. It's a lot of words.
Okay. Okay, I will translate it باختصار. حكت جورجيا على قديش الاشي مش هوين الواحد. طبعا اول شيء حكت باختصار انه طبعا بدعموا كثير انه كل واحد يجيب خلفيته معاه ويحطها. الاشي مش كثير سهل انه ينفهم. الجامد بالاشي انه قديش الطالب بيقدر يجيب من عنده الاشي راح يفيده لإله. مش شرط يمكن اللي قدامه دغري يفهم الاشياء، لانه راح ياخذ شوي وقت، وهذا اشي مش هوين ودائما بنشغل عليه. انه تترجم هاي الاشياء اللي بنجيبها معنا، ان كانت بابحاثنا او ان كانت باي شيء بنحضره في سياق المشروع اللي بناخذه في الاستوديو، مش هوين الخلفيه تاعتنا تنعرض وتكون مفهومه للي قبلنا. بس دائما هذا الشيء مدعوم، وبهمني كثير انه الطالب يقدر يطور نفسه في العمارة عن طريق هذا الشيء. يعني made it very in a very short way.
Synthesis. Thank you, Rana.
Thank you.
Okay. We have last question, last minute. Is there a list of universities from which transfer to AA university is allowed?
No, there isn't a list. I think get in touch with us and we'll help you through admissions, basically. And we can work with you. But we don't have general lists.
Okay, we can end the session. Lumad, Lubna, what do you say?
Yes, it's the end of the session. So first of all, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Sonia. And thank you, Nibras. It was very inspiring for us, for our students, of course. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, guys. This was amazing.
Yes,
Thank you so
that was
much.
really good. By the way, Georgia, we're on time. Like it's
Yeah.
We have 4 minutes.
so
We're
that's
on time.
amazing. I just want to add something that
In a
we
minute.
have, yes, to those who didn't make it and did not join us and they wanted to, we'll have another session. We will publish it as soon as we can, and we'll talk about another sessions also that will be in the near future, having also all the topics about the portfolio and other things, other important things. It's very important for all of you guys that the deadline is the 21st of November, so don't miss it. Work on it. Just visit the AA website, and we will also help you with that. Feel free to contact us with our mail, and also we have in the chat box Anna's mail. So yeah, for me that's it. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Yes, Lubna, maybe we...
Thank you all. I'm still here, but I was listening today, so thank you everyone for being with us, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
I agree with Renat and Lubna. This session was important and opening new opportunities for our architectural community. So thank you very much to all of our speakers and participants for today. I will move to Arabic a little bit. So, شكرا كثير على وقتكم كل المشتركين اللي كانوا معنا اليوم، على مشاركتكم القيمة. بس هيك ملاحظة، رح نبعث لكل المسجلين استمارة تسجلوا فيها إذا كنتم معنيين تتقدموا لكمان مراحل متقدمة عشان تحصلوا على المنحة. وبس بنشوفكم في فعاليات تكتورا لاب القادمة. See you in our next activities in Tectura Lab. Keep yourself updated. And that's it.
شكرا عدن، شكرا لكل المشتركين.
شكرا للجميع، يعطيكم العافية.
يعطيكم العافية.
باي باي، see you.
Bye. See you soon.
باي باي.
Thank you.